This morning, President Trump reverses course and will no longer force parents to separate from their children after crossing the U.S. border illegally. The move comes after enormous opposition to the president's zero-tolerance policy. But now it's up to Congress to take the next step. Susan McGinnis has the story.
The cries of the children were heard.
I think anybody with a heart would feel very strongly about it. We don't like to see families separated.
The president's executive order allows families illegally crossing the U.S. border to stay together in federal custody as parents await prosecution.
This is wrong.
It's a response to a worldwide outcry over the separations of migrant parents and children. But while showing compassion, the president made his position on immigration clear at a rally in Minnesota.
They're not sending their finest, that I can tell you. And we're sending them the hell back. I will never sacrifice the safety and security of the American people.
Now it's up to Congress to agree on immigration reform.
I'm committed to working with the administration and my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to hopefully do that.
As competing bills face an uphill battle in Congress, the future remains uncertain for thousands of children still separated from their parents.
Families together in indefinite detention is not something that I think is sustainable in this country either.
At the least, families now crossing the border and awaiting processing will wait together.
That was Susan McGinnis reporting. Votes on the immigration bill could happen today. As of last night, it was still a scramble for lawmakers' support. Today, a team of federal officials will be at the Little Rock Air Force Base to determine if it will house children seized at the border. The president's order instructs the Department of Defense to make space available to house migrant families. Health and Human Services is looking at a second location to house the children in Arkansas, but have not said where it is.
2nd District Democratic congressional candidate Clark Tucker is against using Little Rock Air Force Base for this purpose. He says, quote, "As a parent, I cannot fathom needlessly separating a child from their mother or father, and I cannot support using the Little Rock Air Force Base to implement this shameful policy." Congressman Hill tells Fox 16 the Trump administration has done a good job with border security. However, he too is not happy with the results of the zero-tolerance policy. He says, "I look forward to supporting legislation that seeks to provide immediate relief for families separated on the border, while helping to better secure our borders with appropriate resources to protect our citizens." Senator Tom Cotton with perhaps the strongest words. He says it's important to protect the border, adding, "We can't allow a child to have a get in the U.S. free ticket." Here's Senator Cotton speaking with President Trump.
It's very important that we protect our border. We cannot allow a child to be a get out of jail free card and a get into the U.S. free ticket. But at the same time, as you said, as we've all said, we'd like to keep families together, keep them together at the border for the orderly and timely processing of the adult's immigration claim. If it's a lawful, legitimate claim, we can admit the family into the country. If not, they'll have to go back to their home country. I'm glad you're looking for a solution for that. I know that we in Congress are working on legislation.
A native Arkansan says her family is caught in the middle of the immigration debate. Sonia Navarrete says a bill that President Clinton signed into law in 1996 has her family now exiled to Mexico. Her husband came to the U.S. illegally about 15 years ago. He was deported once but returned. He and Sonia married and had 2 kids. That's when they decided to try to get him permanent residency in the U.S.
We came out of the shadows. We filed our taxes. You know, he had an I-10. We were doing everything the right way, and it still just did not work out in our favor.
Sonia tells us because her husband was deported, he was denied residency and again deported back to Mexico. Right now, her husband can try to enter the U.S. legally in 10 years. We will continue to follow the immigration story, so stay tuned to Fox 16 on air, on the web, and on social media.
In a Fox 16 crime alert, 2 drivers accused in a crash that killed a child in North Little Rock earlier this month are now facing criminal charges. It happened June 6th on the Riverfront Drive in North Little Rock. Police said the drivers were racing. Brandon Rogers and Michael Scales are in jail this morning, charged with endangering the welfare of a minor. Scales' 12-year-old daughter, Anaya Dilworth, was killed in the crash.
A former caregiver receives a 30-year sentence after pleading guilty to murder. Jennifer Lee Collins was charged in the death of Jane Sandifer in Cherokee Village. Sandifer's son found his mom in her home, beaten and with severe bite marks. She later died of complications from the injuries.